does physical healings, he also takes care of us intellectually. He also cares for us spiritually, makes us right with God. But God also has emotional strength that he gives us. And so we're looking at 8 different folks that were in an emotional mess, and we're able to get God's strength. And how do I get the emotional strength I need as well as all the other areas? So I'd like to encourage you to turn to Nehemiah chapter 4. Nehemiah was a cupbearer. He wasn't somebody used to getting dirt underneath his nails. He's in a very prestigious position, but he has a heart for Jerusalem, a heart for God's people, a heart that they'll be protected. So he knows there's no wall, and that means any nomadic group that happens to be coming by can wipe them out and come at night when they're not expecting it. There's no wall of protection, so they're just going to go through and clobber them. So he goes back and gets his plan for building a wall. And again, it's not something he's used to doing, but he's going to do it anyway because it needs to be done. And let's watch what happens when they're halfway done. They're almost there. And look at what happens. So this is Nehemiah chapter 4. Whoops. So did I do that? Okay. So let's look. This is God's inerrant, infallible, and all-sufficient word. At last the wall was completed to half its height. So notice that. It's halfway done around the city. For the people had worked with enthusiasm. But when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabs and Ammonites and Ashdodites heard that the work was going ahead and that the gaps in the wall were being repaired, they were furious. Many times when you have something good happen for you, people will be mad. They won't be excited for you. They'll be upset. And here, this is a good thing that's going on. But some people are jealous or upset. They don't want Jerusalem to become strong again. They all made plans to come and fight against Jerusalem and throw us into confusion. But we prayed to our God. Notice this. We prayed to our God and guarded the city night and day. He didn't just pray. They didn't just set up a guard. Some people just set up a guard and don't pray. Some people will pray but not set up a guard. They did both to protect themselves. Then the people of Judah began to complain. The workers are getting tired. Come on, you're almost there. There is so much rubble to be removed. We will never be able to build the wall by ourselves. Meanwhile, our enemies were saying, before they know what's happening, we will swoop down on them and kill them and end their work. And so they've got this emotional thing of, we're going to be wiped out any old time. They're going to come flying in. The Jews who lived near the enemy came and told us again and again, it's wearing on them. They will come from all directions. How are you supposed to protect when they come from every single direction and attack us? So I placed armed guards behind the lowest parts of the wall in the exposed areas. Now notice this. I stationed the people to stand guard by families. So he's got families taking one section, and then your house is here. You're guarding that section of the wall that's right in front of your house. So you're protecting your family, and you're guarding your family. So you're extra motivated to do a good job. So he reorganized. They got a new plan. This is the free market system where you're motivated to do a good job because you're taking care of your family. Then I looked over the situation. I called together the nobles and the rest of the people and said to them, don't be afraid of the enemy. He's challenging them. Remember the Lord, who is great and glorious, and fight for your brothers and sisters, your daughters, your wives, your homes. He's calling them all together to do the great fight. So if you have your outline, I want you to open that up, and while you do, I want to tell you a little story. Last Thanksgiving, the day before, Cheryl and I had these nice plans, a relaxing, restful day. Good, it's going to be an extra holiday. We work 6 days a week, so it's nice to have an extra day in there. Well, I get a phone call from my daughter in Latham who says, Dad, can you come? And she knows she owns me. that all she has to do is ask for something, she gets it. But, Dad, we want to go run in the turkey trot. The turkey trot? Yeah, we want to go over to Troy and run together, and let's run in the turkey trot. Okay, doesn't sound very restful and relaxing to me, but we'll go and do that. We'll go run in the turkey trot. So I get over there Thursday morning. Cheryl and I go over. We dress up to run in the turkey trot. There is my daughter from Denver who just comes walking over. Whoa, I didn't expect that. And then here comes my son from Colorado Springs. He comes walking up the stairs in there. And oh, wow, this is a fun time. Wow, we're all together. And now as a family, let's all go run together in the turkey trot. So we get there, and it's this mob of people there. So for the first 2 minutes after they say, go, you can't even budge. What do you mean, go? You can't even go anywhere. There are all these people there. And so we get running, and there's my son and my son-in-law, and they're going a little bit faster than me. So I have to pick up the pace. You know, you got to show these young people that you still got your stuff. So I'm going a little faster. Well, they're going a little faster, so I'm going a little faster. Then they're really going, and I can't quite keep up, and they're looking back at me like, come on, let's get going. This is a race. This isn't a Sunday afternoon stroll. Let's run. So they kept looking back and getting further and further, and finally I said, just go, you know. And so I ran and ran and ran and ran and ran, and then ran some more, and there's a sign up that says 1 mile. What? All that running, all that effort, and that's all the further I've gotten is 1 mile, and they're 3 in a 5K, 3.1 mile. So I'm going, oh my goodness, 2 miles. How did I get myself into this? I had nice plans, relax, watch a Macy's Day Parade, just take it easy, get some extra food. Instead, I'm running. Have you ever found yourself like that? This past Thursday, my sister retired as a city planner for 42 years down in the Washington, D.C. area. So I drove down for it, said the invocation, was great. She really honored me and my brothers. There's 1 girl, 5 boys. She said, my brothers taught me adversity. Just being with them, I learned about adversity. So it really made me feel warm inside when she said that. But anyway, then I'm driving back. All the way, it's already been 8 hours down there, then the thing, then 8 hours back. I'm doing great until about Scranton. Any of you ever driven by Scranton before? Scranton, I'm going, ooh, this is getting old. It's going down the road, it's raining, it's miserable, it's dark, and going, how did I get myself into this? Then yesterday, I was officially spoken about as the new legislative chaplain. There was an Albany update where all the people that were very interested in this were gathered. And one of the gals came up to me and said, I can't wait to hear about all the souls you're going to get saved there in the assembly and the Senate. And I went, yeah, praise the Lord. But inside I'm thinking, I can't wait either to hear, because I don't know how that's going to happen. I'm just as curious as you are. How do I get myself into these things? Do you see a pattern? Are you picking up? Are you discerning a pattern? See, you're all like psychiatrists. You can figure this stuff out. All of us find ourselves in things where we're going, how did I get myself into this? Some of the folks in the backpack program, out of the goodness of their heart, volunteered, and here they're getting older, and yet there they are, still doing it, going, how did I get myself into this thing of getting all these groceries and carrying them around? Well, we do because God has a purpose for each and every one of us. In Psalm 138, it says it twice, Psalm 55 and 138, the Lord will fulfill his purpose. God has a purpose for each and every one of you. I don't know what exactly it is, but I know one thing. It's bigger than you think it's going to be, and it involves other people. And I know that at some point you're going to be going, how did I ever get myself into this? How did that happen? I had a nice life going, and all of a sudden I'm in this. but your steadfast love endures. God's going to fulfill the purpose. Now, here are 4 common problems that cause me to say, how did I get into this? How did I get stuck in this mess? And so if you look on your outline, the first one is when something takes much longer than I ever imagined. I get overwhelmed when that happens. It was supposed to be short. It's a nice little thing. It's taking forever. How did I get into this? Then we get tired and get discouraged and get overwhelmed with things when it's taking longer. This leads to fatigue, which causes me to feel overwhelmed. Here are the people saying, we're tired, we're worn out, we can't keep up this pace. You're halfway done. It's up here halfway. Don't quit now when you got the wall there. You're most of the way there. It's up there, but they said, we're tired. We're worn out. That's something we feel. The great football coach of the Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi, said fatigue makes cowards out of all of us. So that's why he's putting all of his football players in good shape, because he knows as you get into that fourth quarter, you're going to feel tired if you're not in great shape. And that's the way it is with us. If we're not prepared, if it's taking a lot longer, then we become a power and want to quit, and we want to go have a midlife crisis. When you have a midlife crisis, you're halfway there. You've got a great family, you've got great things happening in your life, and you're there, and all of a sudden you say, it's taking too long. And so you have to go run and get a red car and a little beret, and you race around. You have to leave your family and go and blow money like mad because you said, this is taking longer than I expected. They're quitting when you're halfway there. In the movie Overcomer, it talks about this cross-country runner, and she wants to quit. And her coach is saying to her, your legs are probably hurting you right about now, and you want to quit. Well, guess what? If you quit, your legs are still going to hurt, but you're going to lose the race. Keep running. Your legs are going to hurt either way. Might as well keep running in the race. Don't quit. Be an overcomer that keeps on going. Now, something happens when you get tired and kind of quit and kind of hang back and not really participate too much. You get attacked. Here's the Israelites. They're walking through the desert, and there's a pace that they're going with all 3 million of them. Well, some people were sick, and some people, for whatever reason, couldn't keep up with the pace, so they hung in the back. Well, guess who was an easy target for the nomadic groups that would go by and attack? It's the people hanging back that are already sick, already walking slower. They get beat up. I want to encourage you to keep up with the pace and not be that group of stragglers that's hanging back and becomes an easy target for the enemies that want to come behind, even though you're tired and exhausted. Secondly, I get overwhelmed when something is much more complicated than I expected. When I got into this, it was supposed to be simple. You do this, there's nothing to it, and all of a sudden, it's complicated, and it's a lot more effort than you thought it was going to be. This leads to discouragement, which makes me feel overwhelmed. Beside that, there is so much rubble and trash to be removed. So they didn't expect that it was going to be complicated. Here's this wall that's been torn down by the Babylonians. They want to rebuild it, but all the rubble from the previous wall is there in front of them. So it's going to take forever to move all that rubble away so that you can start the project all over again. They're going, it's too much. You know, in relationships, there is rubble. There is stuff that's complicated. Keep working through those problems. Don't quit and give up and go, there's too much trouble. You're halfway there. In relationships with your kids, there's rubble there. How can that be in my kid, that issue or that problem or that struggle? There's rubble there. Don't quit, you're halfway there. keep going forward. If you join a small group, there will be rubble, there'll be a problem, there'll be a struggle of some kind. Keep going, don't quit now because of something that was there. You've got an exercise routine that you're so excited about. Involved, there's struggled to get to do that. Don't quit. You've made it so far of the way. What am I forgetting? In fulfilling your purpose, there's going to be rubble. In doing the thing that God has called you to do, there's going to be some complications that you didn't expect that's harder. Keep going. The wall's halfway there. Don't quit and give up now and say, it's not worth all the effort. It's complicated. Yes, it is, but you're halfway there. Keep on going and building that wall. Here's what David had to say in the middle of the battle. Come, Lord, and show me your mercy, for I feel helpless, overwhelmed, and in deep distress. There's a third thing that makes me feel overwhelmed. When something appears to be far greater than my ability. There are times when you're working on it, here's a project, and here comes something, and it's greater than the ability you have. This leads to pessimism. Well, it's never going to get done. And that's what the Israelites were doing. I'm not very good at mechanical and construction kinds of things, and so I try to fix it on my own. And then somebody who knows what they're doing has to come in, undo what I've done, and then fix it the right way. So it takes twice as long after I try to help out. Well, we all get into things, and we go, that's beyond my ability. And so what happens after that is we start doubting our abilities. And if you're doubting some of your abilities, you're normal. That's the normal thing to do, to doubt some of my abilities. Everybody does that. But then we get suspicious. Are we able to do it? We become anxious. We become fearful. And then, as it goes and goes, we become self-protective, where all our energy is just to build a shell around us to protect us from everything because we're doubting our abilities and we don't think we can go forward. And that's what the Israelites are doing. They want to quit and just put a little shell around themselves and to protect themselves because they feel like they can't continue on. The people said, we realize we cannot finish this wall. What do you mean you can't? It's halfway up. You've done the hardest part, getting the first part of it laid. Now it's halfway up. All you have to do is a little bit further. We will never be able to finish it. We all feel that at times. I can't do it. But we keep going, and we get there somehow. Number 4, another way I feel overwhelmed, is when the opposition is much stronger than I expected. Here's the B-17 Flying Fortress that they used so much in World War II. And as they're getting closer and closer to the target, they knew it because there was more and more anti-aircraft fire. There was more flak up there the closer they got. If you're getting more and more flak, you're getting closer to the target. People are coming after you and giving you opposition and trying to discourage you and get you to quit. This leads to hopelessness, which causes me to feel overwhelmed. Our enemies are threatening to kill us in order to stop it. They're going to come from every direction and attack us. We'll never be able to defend from every direction, so they get ready to quit. Anytime you stick out your shingle and say, I'm in business to do this or do that, there's going to be somebody that wants to throw a rock at your shingle. Somebody that would like you to be out of business. Somebody that wouldn't like you to be around anymore because you're interfering or they're just jealous of what you're doing. That goes with the territory, that there will be opposition as you're doing the things that are a part of God's plan for your life. So what do I do about this? 3 things on your outline that are super important. Number 1, as you're going forward and it's difficult, you're halfway there, but you think you can't go any further, get a new plan. Come up with a new plan. And so that's when he came up with the idea of, okay, we're going to have each family defend their section of the wall, the section in front of their house. They made it more personal, that it's more urgent, because they're not just looking at the whole wall and they're coming from every direction. No, you just cover the section that's your family. So you have extra motivation knowing I'm protecting my family and me, that I'll be able to sleep through the night. So that's what he did right off the bat, is had them do that. Some people, a part of that plan should be having other people involved with you. They say some people have gotten out of the habit of meeting with other believers, but we must not do that. Instead, we should keep on encouraging each other. And so I hope that's a part of a new plan for you this fall, is to be involved in a small group. There's a bunch of them. They're all listed out there on the wall. There's Wednesday night, the Discovery Bible Study, which goes over the basics. There's also discipleship for people that want to go deeper. That's right afterwards. I encourage you to be in one of those groups somewhere and make that part of a new plan as you refocus again and say, what should I be doing differently? Not quitting, but what should I do differently? Secondly, get a fight song. When you're in a battle, nothing is as powerful as a fight song. Let me give you a radical example of that. During World War II, the United States killed soldiers. Are you getting 407,000 for all the war, the beaches at Normandy. 407,000. For the Russians and the Germans, there was one great battle, the Battle of Stalingrad. In that one battle, how many did the Americans lose again? In all of them? 407,000. In one battle, Stalingrad, 2 million were killed in that one battle. Civilians, soldiers, Germans, etc. The Germans were clobbering the Russians. The Russians took by far the most casualties. Just imagine that. 4 times more than we lost in the whole war. One battle, they're losing. The turning point from when the Russians were just being slaughtered left and right is when a bunch of Russians just got in one of the few buildings that were there, threw open a window, threw down a banner from the church, and started singing. This is atheistic, communistic Russia. Threw out the banners and started singing hymns that they remembered from 20 years before they had been banned. And it was the power of that song that gave them the strength to say, we're not just going to sit here and be slaughtered. We're going to let them have it. They're in our land. They're on our turf. We're taking them out. It was the singing that did it. When we were building our house, it took 2.5 years. It was supposed to take 6 months. There was a song by Twyla Paris called God is in Control. And I would go, we were at the Fruitful Vine at the time, I would crank up that system as loud as it would go, and I would play, God is in control. This is no time for fear, and that's what I'd speak to myself. This isn't the time for fear. Don't quit now. Keep going. This is a time for faith and determination. Don't lose the vision here, and I don't want you to lose the vision now. This isn't the time to lose the vision. Carried away by your emotion. Hold on to all that you hide in your heart. You've got desires. You've got a heart for stuff. Don't quit now. Move forward. There is one thing that has always been true. It holds the world together. Well, what's that? What's the one thing? This is the one thing. God is in control. We believe that his children will not feel forsaken. Well, I sure felt forsaken. We're working and working, getting nowhere. In fact, we're going backwards some days. And so I felt forsaken. I'm not forsaken. Even though I may feel forsaken, I am not forsaken. God is control. We will choose to remember. There's a choice whether or not I'm going to remember. We'll choose. I'd sing it at the top of my lungs. We'll choose to remember and never be shaken. There's no power above or beside him. We know that God is in control. And I want to encourage you to have a song that's your song that you can sing over and over and over. I encourage you to have a promise from the Bible that's your promise, and to grab that like a pit bull and hang on to it with everything you've got. Evander Holyfield went in to fight Mike Tyson. He was such an underdog, Las Vegas wouldn't even take bets on it because it was usually Mike Tyson was just going to slaughter him. Evander Holyfield put Philippians 4:13 on his boxing robe. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And he claimed that in his promise, and he won the boxing match. Lost part of his ear, but he won the boxing match. He made enough to pay for plastic surgery. It looks fine. So claim a promise that's your promise, that when you're feeling overwhelmed, you've got a song to sing, you've got a promise. Get a prayer reminder. I have this little wristband that's a reminder of a prayer that I'm praying that I don't want to share with you yet. Someday I'll share it, but I don't want to share it yet. There's something I'm praying for that God will do. Or get a prayer buddy. Louise King would call her sister at 5 o'clock in the morning during the whole last election season, and they would pray and pray and pray for our nation. And they saw God move mightily, but it cost them. Her sister's in Buffalo, she's out here, and they're up at 5 o'clock in the morning praying together with each other. Get a prayer buddy, get a prayer reminder, claim a promise, get a fight song, and watch what happens as you do all that, and see if God doesn't turn the tide so that you don't quit when you're the wall's halfway up, you're there. Okay. Then I looked over the situation. I called together the leaders and the people and said to them, don't be afraid of the enemy. Remember the Lord who is great. And so there he is telling the people to believe. Number 3, resist your enemy. This is a command. Resist the devil and he will flee from you, the Bible says several times. Don't just let Satan beat the tar out of you and stand there and take it. I still remember my dad's booming voice. My younger brother got into a little fight and was just laying there while he was getting beat up. And here's my dad, who's very quiet, passive, never in a fight, never really in a big argument with anybody. And here he is saying, you don't let him do that to you ever again. You get up. I don't care if he knocks you down 10 times. You get up and you belt him one. He was saying, don't let the enemy win without a fight. Resist the devil. That's a command from God. Then I told him, fight for your brothers, for your sons, for your daughters, for your wives, for your homes. Why are you doing all these very big idea things? Because you care about your family, because you care about God's plan for your life. That's why we get in over our head and we're overwhelmed. And how in the world did I get in? Because we have big dreams. And I want to encourage you to continue to have big dreams. And yes, you'll get overwhelmed, but don't quit, because the wall's halfway up. And you're going to make it the rest of the way in the relationships, in your family, in your vision, in the workplace. You're going to win. But you can't let the enemy beat you up. Do the opposite of what Satan wants you to do, and hang in there and do the thing instead that God wants you to do. If your brother was murdered for absolutely no reason, would you feel a little overwhelmed? Well, there's somebody this week that's been all over the news, and over 1 million people have viewed this video that I want to show you. But here's a young man. His brother was an accountant. He's eating ice cream in his apartment. In comes an off-duty policewoman. She thought it was in her apartment. The apartments look a lot alike, and she's walking into what she thought was her apartment, and She sees this man eating ice cream. She doesn't see that. She sees there's this intruder that's going to kill her. So she pulls her service revolver and kills the person and then goes, this isn't I walked in the wrong apartment. I can't believe it. And she called 911. You can listen to the phone call. And she's going, I thought it was my apartment. It was a big mistake, a thing, but she way overreacted. Wouldn't you be furious? Well, I want you to listen to what, I think he's 19 years old, Brant Jean, Lucia in the Caribbean area. Listen to what he says in response to horrific evil.
I speak for myself. I forgive you. And I know if you go to God and ask him, he will forgive you. And I don't think anyone can say, again, I'm speaking for myself, not even bad for my family. But I love you just like anyone else. And I'm not going to say I hope you rot and die just like my brother did, but I personally want the best for you. And I wasn't going to ever say this in front of my family or anyone, but I don't even want you to go to jail. I want the best for you. Because I know that's exactly what both of them want you to do. And the best would be give your life to Christ. I'm not going to say anything else. I think giving your life to Christ would be the best thing that both of them want you to do. Again, I love you as a person. And I don't wish anything bad on you. I don't know if this is possible, but can I give her a hug, please?
Can you believe he's asking that?
Wow.
Please?
Can you believe that?
Yes.
Took a long time to get that answer. Now look at the judge as he goes walking by. Look at what the judge is doing. Wiping her eyes. Now tell me if this isn't the longest hug in history. He's still talking to her. He's still encouraging her. Now, meanwhile, the judge is going back into her chambers, getting her Bible, bringing it out, and she's going to give it to her and say, you keep my Bible as you go into jail. And the judge is going to get in big trouble for that. You know, this is bringing healing and restoration that our nation desperately needs. There's a group trying to push make everybody furious and angry over it, which it was wicked and terrible and wrong, what happened. But they're trying to pour gasoline on the fire that's already there, that was there long before this incident happened. Here is this young man bringing healing and restoration, and yet he's being attacked, the judge big time being attacked, and all sorts of other things that Satan wants to use to destroy the peace in our country. I want to encourage you to do the radical thing, to do the thing that God wants you to do, to follow through, even though you've been overwhelmed by what's going on. Get that new plan, get the fight song that you can fight, get the promise that you can claim, get a prayer buddy, get a prayer reminder, and then resist the enemy. Resist the enemy. Don't go along with the enemy and the enemy's plan. Resist the enemy and watch what God does. Would you grab that little slip, the next step slip that's inside your bulletin? There are 5 questions on the back that I'd love to have you right now, while this is fresh in your mind,